Welcome back to the Tuesday weekend, where we are going to cut through the cold butter of your bad Yelp review with the hot knife of the fact that we actually do not care about your opinion. It is known. Okay, so you think your third mudslide at Applebee's wasn't as strong as it should have been, and you're going to rage about it and never go back to the West Side Applebee's again, only the one on Washington Ave, or if you're out by the mall, that one's fine too. For the big national chains, some of them take internet reviews very seriously. And yes, you actually can get a server or bartender fired over a bad review, you shitty, shitty person. Or for small businesses, one or two just irrationally irate reviews can do real and lasting damage to a business's financial viability, you shitty, shitty person. So ask yourself, before you destroy some stranger's personal finances or help lead some business owner's decision to shutter their doors, ask yourself, was it worth it? Was it really that bad? If it was that bad, did you seek some remedy before you left the restaurant? Or did you just go straight to your bitching post? Yeah, okay, I'm going to step off this box. Nick, Yelp reviews?
Yelp reviews are very helpful in this. No, fuck that shit. You don't know how a restaurant runs. You don't know how stuff goes. You have no idea what you're talking about. You just don't. If something doesn't taste right, it's probably because that's not how you make it, more than anything else. I've got 2 Yelp stories for you, both different endings. I had a couple sitting down at a bar, at a table. Guy had a beer, Hefeweizen. I kept trying to clear off his table because the restaurant I worked in had no air conditioning. It was summertime in San Diego, right on the water, around 80 degrees. A warm Hefeweizen you don't want to wish that on anyone. And he's like, no, the beer's fine. No, the beer's fine. No, the beer's fine. And then finally, for him, a fruit fly landed in the beer. And he's like, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I need to know the beer. There's a fruit fly. I'm like, dude, that beer's been out here for 45 minutes. No. Well, I want to talk to your manager. And he pulls his phone out. Didn't pull it out. It's actually on the table and shows me a Yelp. And I'm like, no shit, really? And grabbed the phone from him and wrote his Yelp review and posted it. Wow. Well, I sat in this restaurant for 45 minutes and it finally happened. A fruit fly landed in my beer. Now I can complain and try to get some free shit. This is what I do for a living. This is how I go to restaurants. I show up and do this and say, hey, I'm posting this on Yelp. You better hook me up or I'm going to make you look bad. And he couldn't take it down. It was fantastic. I even gave myself 5 stars as the best server he'd ever had because I actually volunteered to remove the fruit fly so he could continue enjoying his beer because I felt the fruit fly had had enough of his beer. That being said, I had another guests actually, husband and wife, walk up to my bar. I'm on a 2-story restaurant, ask for 2 martinis. They're a little tipsy. My mind is the usual bars. Okay, we'll do 1 and done, and they'll probably head out. I think they just had dinner and stuff. His wife drinks a martini in less than 9 minutes. Woo! And I'm talking a full martini, not like a little ounce or like an actual 3 ounce. And I'm like, she had half a martini, and I'm like, are you doing okay? And she slams it, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then she says this in complete and total English, I don't know. And I'm like, you just drank that in less than 9 minutes. That's like 3 shots of vodka. I really can't serve anymore. Also, you can't speak. The guy goes off. Get your manager. This is bullshit. I can't believe you're cutting us off after 1 drink. And I'm like, I'm not cutting you off. I'm cutting your wife off. She's drunk enough she can't speak English. Go get your manager. And I'm like, I'm not moving. I look at my busser and I'm like, go get the manager. And he turns to his wife and says, don't say a fucking word when the manager gets here. So the manager shows up. I remove myself from the situation, as you do, so that you're not there antagonizing the guest who's completely mad at you for cutting them off. That's how the bartender world goes. You just want to let them deal with it. I'm standing around the corner talking to the busser and a server, or actually a food runner, and the busser is just like, well, they were down at the bar before dinner. And I'm like, okay. Well, he's like, they had martinis. And I'm like, all right. And then the food runner's like, yeah, they had dinner downstairs. They had martini glasses on their table the entire dinner. I'm like, okay. Go get those tickets pulled from the bartender and the server. So they go downstairs and come back up. And then my manager is falling for this guy, hook, line, and sinker. The guy's fine. I mean, the guy's like 6'4", like 260. He take a bottle or two to get him actually drunk where he couldn't talk. And he's just talking down. He's like, this is our first drink. We just got here. And I just walk up and I'm like, okay, first off, ask the wife how she's doing. And he just glares at the wife and is like, well, miss, how are you doing tonight? And she tries to say something and fails miserably. I'm like, here's his bar tab where they had 2 martinis. Here's his dinner tab where they each had 2 martinis. So this is their 4th martini in our restaurant. Mm-hmm. I'm like, she is obviously inebriated. I can't serve her. He knows this. He's throwing a fit about it. Gentleman goes out, takes his wife out, gets in his truck, drives away, opens a Yelp account to complain that I cut them off after 1 drink, and is how he put it. My general manager, and this is a Yelp thing a lot of people don't realize happens. I tell my general manager, the manager writes a report. He emails Yelp and says, hey, this is what happened. Here's the receipts. Yelp takes the report down after a day. I mean, a lot of people just get on Yelp to be like that. I had a friend of mine at a bar down here. I was actually called the Saddam Hussein of bartending. I was jealous. I've never been called that before, and I'm known as a pretty big dick bartender. So that was in a fine dining place. I mean, that was hilarious. But these people came in drunk, got cut off. The guy and the wife both wrote Yelp reviews, how they were treated horribly, how they were refused service by any means possible, whether it be their race, their sex, whatever, saying all these horrible things when in reality, y'all are just drunk and we couldn't serve you. It's a law. It's not like we don't want to. It's just like, sorry, dude, you guys are hammered. Can't give you another drink. Go home. That's Yelp for me. It's just constantly, when I think Yelp, I think of a coyote caught in a trap. Because it's just a lot of barking with no sense. It's something you did to yourself. And it's just like, I'm going to tell everybody this was horrible because I didn't like it. And like I said, these things right here, I have walked up to a table with this wide open on the Yelp page, ready to write a review. And people like, oh, hi. And they're kind of eyeballing, like looking at their phone like, hey, look what I'm doing. Look, I'm on Yelp. I'm one of the big Yelp people. I've got a check mark. It's asinine.
Ooh,
Same thing though. Now that I'm at a hotel, we get GSS things, which is like a personal Yelp, and they do take those seriously. They actually affect our rating because we're a franchise, affect our rating with the whole thing. If there's a bad, like I cut off a wedding party once because they were hammered, they were vaping inside. It's California, you just can't do that at all.
Yeah.
And they wrote down how I ruined their entire wedding, and they would never stay at a Marriott again because I cut them off. I mean, the groom came up, took a sip of his vodka soda, puked a little bit in his mouth and swallowed it and said, screw that, I'm just drinking a beer. Yeah, that's when I cut you off. And I'm like, you just puked in your mouth. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, you can't have anything.
You're done.
I ruined the wedding for doing that. That's like I said, that's what
Yeah.
Yelp is to me. It's just constant complaints. You see some good ones, but there's one good one for every 15 bad ones.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, and there
Okay,
is a world in which leaving positive Yelp reviews actually does benefit people, and so let me encourage people to do that.
Oh yeah, please do.
I, as somebody who has lived in this industry long before Yelp came around, when I'm looking for what restaurant should I dine at tonight, Yelp is not a resource that I go to. It's the dumpster out back. I don't want to eat there.
Unless I need an address or it's a hard to find menu. Because, you know, some places' websites don't have their menu for some reason.
Sure.
We have a great restaurant. What's your food? Oh, you'll see.
Oh, that'd be great.
I used to go through Yelp reviews just to see what we'd done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And half the time I knew the exact table and knew there was literally nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, even if it wasn't my table, it was same thing, restaurant. We did a spicy margarita. Everyone does spicy margaritas. We did ours with Serrano peppers. They wanted it blended. And I'm like, you do not want me to blend a pepper in your margarita. You're just going to be drinking liquid pepper.
That could be spicy.
And I went from the bar to talk to the table and say, hey, this is a really bad idea. Just let me make it normally. You're not going to want it frozen. And they said, nope, make it frozen. And I'm like, okay. So I make the frozen one and I make a regular one. Give them to the server. She goes out with both. She puts the frozen one down. They're like, is that for another table? And she's all sorta. And the guy takes one. She's like, this tastes just like hot pepper. Da 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 da. Tell him to make a regular one. She's like, and here's the regular one, like the bartender said you'd want. Yeah. Horrible Yelp review. Drinks were awful. Bartender tried to force it down our throats. Told us that frozen was great. And it's just like, yeah, no, I told you the opposite of that. I was trying to help you out. And same thing in the hotel. I had a guy. End of the night, all my glassware is dirty, or it's 180 degrees because I'm washing it. Can I get a glass of water? I'm like, all I've got is like martini glasses and shot glasses, dude. Tell you what, go up to the front desk. My name's Nick. Tell him I said to give you 6 bottles of water. 6 free bottles of water because I don't have a glass of water for you. The guy still put in his review, bartender refused to serve me a glass of water.
Yeah,
That's
there's no
how I
need
see
for that.
Yelp reviews. I just honestly flat out patently ignore them. None of us read and go like, oh, we need to improve. Only the owners read those and go, oh, that's horrible.
Right.
That's where Yelp reviews come from. It's nothing for the servers, nothing for the managers. It's just people who usually have a lot of money and own the restaurant say, oh, that's horrible, and then call us about it.
Yeah.
Right. Because if there is something, and this is me speaking as a manager right now, if there is something that needs to be addressed about your dining experience, the appropriate time to do it is while you are there.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing I could do about it once you've left the doors. And nor do I care to, because you didn't bother to address it with me when you were here.
I mean, I'm really sad to hear your steak was medium well 3 days later. Sorry.
And that's it. Like, if you haven't asked for a manager while you're there, we can't help you. And we also don't trust the Yelp reviews unless it's
Not at
something
all.
that we can document that we've definitely made a mistake. For me, when I'm reading Yelp and I'm seeing, oh, this was too expensive. Oh, they weren't serving customers because they were doing something else. And it's like, well, maybe that's what they're actually supposed to be doing. Maybe those are people that are paid to make ice cream, not paid to get you ice cream.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like when you're in a restaurant and you see a table, ask a busser for something. Like I've had several times because of how I carry myself and stuff. Sometimes tables are afraid to ask me for stuff, so they'll ask another server or busser. I'm just like, you can ask me. Oh, we don't want to bother you. I'm like, I'm your server. You can bother me all you want to. It's kind of my job. Don't. I mean, I'm a little stern, but hey, can we get some more mayonnaise? No problem. You don't have to ask the guy who's feverishly trying to clean tables so we can seat more people to also be a food runner. Please don't do that. And if you have a problem, just tell me. I want to fix it.
Yeah.
I want you to be happy. I don't want to be like, yeah, screw those guys.
And
No, I want them to be happy.
the other broad point I wanted to make on this topic is having an opinion does not make you a food critic. We have opinions. We are pretty knowledgeable about the industry, and none of the three of us are food critics. It really is, well, it at least used to be a very specialized role that incorporated a lot of knowledge. You have to be a sommelier of food. You have to know, you have to have encyclopedic background knowledge of what you are talking about, or no one's going to respect you. You can't just say, man. You know, that doesn't,
like, back in Utah, I was friends with some of the food critics, Ted Scheffler for City Weekly, and then Mary Malou for the Tribune. Miss her, too bad. But I mean, when they would come in, I knew they were rating our restaurant and stuff, but I could ask them about stuff like, what do you think of this? And like you said, well, I think this was cooked too long. I think there was too much of this spice in it compared to this. And that's most people don't even know the spices that are in the things, because it's not, I mean, you're not going to say there's tarragon in the menu.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
it's just going to be there.
It seemed a little heavier on the coriander today than usual.
And those are the food critics that I'm used to talking to, who like, they notice the difference in slight spice variations. They know what goes in the dish. They understand the procedure you did to make the dish.
And now, sure, aspirationally, if you desire to be a food critic, go for it. Like, I think that's a great thing to do, but be prepared to spend a lot of time learning, and you know, maybe even, I don't know, couch a little humility in there too isn't the worst idea. And
ask the chef, hey, what were you thinking on this? Why was it? And you would gladly tell them, this is what I thought of this dish, this way, and they're like, great. A lot of the food critics, they always want to talk to the chef, and they want to talk food with the chef.
Oh yeah.
It hasn't been brought up yet on our podcast, but there's this horrible / great movie called The Menu.
Oh gosh.
Ending wasn't so great, but the whole middle part was dead on. I mean, that's how people in the food service are made to feel. That's how we're treated. I mean, like, that's just kind of how it is. When they show the chef at the end making a cheeseburger gleefully because he's so happy just to make something nice for someone that they're going to enjoy, versus using all of his time, all of his effort to put something where someone's going to be like, take one bite, like, nah, there's too much of this. And you're like, dude, you're not. It's when he takes the foodie guy who knows every flavor of everything in it and says, cook us a meal. And he can't cook a lamb chop. He doesn't know how to spice anything. He knows all the flavors, but he just doesn't understand how it's all put together. And that's what I see when people criticize food like that, who want to be food critics, are like, this was wrong, and it's like, no, man, that's the dish, that's the drink, that's how it's made. Just man up and say, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. If I make a drink, someone says, I just don't like this, I'm like, well, what else can I get you instead?
Right. It is
It's
totally
super easy.
fine to just not care for something.
Yeah. It's, if you don't like a flavor, it's great to say, hey, man, I just don't like this. Can I get something else? It just doesn't work for me.
I mean, not just that. It's fine to not like something that objectively was prepared correctly. That was, that other people would quite enjoy. If that's just not to your taste, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not to your taste.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, this is prepared incorrectly. Got it. But that should usually be temperature. It's almost always temperature cooking. I want my fish more done. I want my steak less done. I want my chicken's undercooked. That I hate it when that happens, but that does happen once in a while. It's never, this sauce is too rich, or, there's too much garlic, or I never hear that. In 10 years, I've never heard there's too much spice or not enough spice. I've heard too spicy. But that's usually when they order a spicy dish, and I'm like, you ordered the one with the spicy fennel Italian sausage in it. That's going to be spicy.
The one with the little chili pepper next to it.
Yeah,
going to be spicy.
Exactly. So, I mean, but it's when people want to, like you said, on Yelp, be food critics and say, this is wrong, this is wrong. They obviously cooked their chowder too wrong. The demi-glaze on the steak was very, very underdone. It wasn't thick enough or had the right. They're using words they've heard and don't know what they're talking about. And it's just frustrating. Like when you read a Yelp review and they're like, they're complaining about something on the steak or something on the dish that wasn't even on the dish. They'll name a sauce and it's like, we don't even have that sauce. But okay, apparently we had it on that fish that night and we did it wrong, even though we don't have it or the ingredients to make it, but we didn't do it right. Thank you, Yelp. That's pretty much what Yelp is.
Well, and Trae, really, any other thoughts you have, or kind of your experience of the internet critic phenomenon?
I think the big one is 1-star reviews are, and we've heard this before, but 1-star reviews are about you. Mm-hmm. It's not about the restaurant. It's not about the meal that you had or the service that you got. It's about you being an awful person and needing something to complain about.
Our server was horrible. She was very flirty with my husband.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. We came and expected to be able to get sauerkraut and sausages, and when we got there, all they served was tacos because it was a Mexican restaurant. Like, yeah. You're an idiot.
That happen. Literally had people like, we're going to go to a happy hour at Serrano's. I'm like, great, they have a margarita happy hour. They come back like, all they served was tequila. And I'm like, it's a margarita happy hour. I told you that.
Yeah. I had somebody call yesterday and complain to me that the sushi bar in the casino didn't have tables, so they couldn't bring their kids. And I apologized for the fact that a sushi bar in a casino didn't have accommodation for children. We'll work on that, I'm sure.
It's always stuff like that. It's like, bartender wouldn't let our kids sit at the bar. Well, in California, it's illegal for your kids to sit at the bar.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's literally against the law.
It's not as if Carson City doesn't have half a dozen other all-you-can-eat sushi joints. There's one right down the block. Oof. Anyway, all right. We're, I think, going to wrap it up on this. But before we go, I do want to do, like I like to every week, a quick restaurant shout-out. This week, I am going to shout out Once in a Blue Moon Cafe in Princeton, Wisconsin. Yes, small town of 1,400 people. If you are in Princeton, I was going to say if you're in Princeton for the flea market on a Saturday, stop by beforehand, but they're going to be crowded. You know what? Go on a Wednesday. Go on a Thursday. It's great. Say hi to the owners for me. Yeah, Nick, Trae.
I think I'm gonna give a little shout out to my favorite little noodle spot here in Boulder, Zoe Mama. Their Dan noodles are just the best. Can't stop eating there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was gonna go something different, but noodles it is. I'm gonna go with Underbelly here in Little Italy. One of the best ramen places I've ever been to. Our mutual friend Glenn, once again, after he came back from Japan, stopped through San Diego on the way back to Colorado. We went down for dinner, and he's like, this is the closest thing I've had to Japanese ramen ever. And right now, the way the place is designed, it's just like eating ramen in Blade Runner. There's neon all over. They've got these automatic pneumatic liquor holders where like they push a button, it comes down. It's like an upside down R2D2, and they open it and pull out the toki for you, the shot, put it back in, and it just goes back up.
Well, that's cool.
And the food is just fantastic. And it's a true ramen place. You go up to the counter, you order, they give you a number, you find a place to sit.
Mhm.
That's it.
All right.
You don't. That
Oh,
yeah,
check
love
that
the
out.
place.
Cool.
I ate here when I first moved out here. Again, 10 years ago today. That's where I had dinner. The first place I came out here to.
Fantastic.
So.
All right. Well, for our listeners, remember to like, subscribe, leave us some comments, tell your coworkers, rage quit your job so you have more time to listen to us, and join us again next week.
Au revoir.
All right.
Au revoir.
Hey.